presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com, request your appointment online. Mention you're from 8-Man Extreme, you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Spencer Thompson, Isaiah Austin. We got James Shannon in studio today, and we got some other stuff going on for a lot of intense action to recap over this weekend for 8-man football. Just a lot of big things occurring. First things first, as we always do, we got to go through the scores. Top to bottom helmet schedules, everybody, for Week 8 of the MTAC 8-man football season has concluded. We'll start with Bowling Green Lighthouse. In Bowling Green, 62-48, Lighthouse got it done, and in huge numbers, a high-scoring game out in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So Lighthouse keeping their playoff hopes alive, and another team in the North, unfortunately, their playoff hopes being decreased after this weekend, but just a big win for Lighthouse Christian School over Bowling Green, Isaiah.
Yeah, a really strong offensive game for both teams. Both teams over 300 yards of total offense. But the thing that made this game super interesting was the matchup of John Stock and Michael Bond against each other on the offense and defensive end. Michael Bond, 23 carries for 163 yards and 4 touchdowns, and John Stock with 106 total yards on offense. John Stock getting 13.5 tackles and Michael Bond with 12. So that was a matchup to look for. But at the end of the game, big difference maker was Ricky McDowell getting into his own, throwing 2 touchdowns for Lighthouse and pulling out the win.
Yeah, just a big old win there for the Lions and everything. We're really looking forward to see how they perform potentially in the playoffs, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The rematch of the MTAC championship between the Christian Community School Patriots and the the Christian Community, reversing mascots there. The Christian Community School Colts and the South Haven Christian School Patriots. The Colts got it done. They flipped the script on that one. A 50-24 score for Christian Community at South Haven's new temporary stadium, and Christian Community just staying the course for who they are, staying the course for what they are as a team. And as far as I know right now, I believe Christian Community solidified the #1 seed in the North with that weekend. They may need to actually no. They have not solidified it because it's still pending on some Lighthouse losses and wins and such by virtue of the North games, but Christian Community getting closer to that point of solidifying it. So for South Haven, they are still looking for their first win. They're still struggling, but good on Christian Community to continue doing what they do best. Yeah, the story of the night was Nathaniel Rowley once again throwing 3 touchdown passes in the first half, letting me know that Christian Community went into the half with a 44-0 lead before subbing in their secondary. And it's a big win for Christian Community and a tough loss for South Haven because this is a rematch from last year's championship game. But good on South Haven to be able to come back and make it a reasonable game in the fourth quarter. But this was all Christian Community when the starters were out. Yeah, Christian Community just dominant there, completely taking control of the game even on the road, as they are 2 games away from having their second straight undefeated season stemming from last year. We'll get to the Saturday game between the Heat and Webb in just a moment, and we already covered Lighthouse, Bowling Green. We now go to the South, Riverside Christian and Franklin Christian Academy. It was Franklin Christian Academy's homecoming game, and they could not quite get the win. Riverside Christian Academy 30-22 over the Falcons. FCA officially eliminated from playoff contention, eliminated from the bowl slot as the tiebreaker is held on them over Lancaster and Riverside. Even if they get the victory against Webb, the tiebreakers are there. But just a tough loss at homecoming for Franklin Christian. But a big sign for Riverside because they, even with that win, Riverside, that's their last South game, they essentially have the bowl slot as far as we've seen because they've beaten all the other teams aside from Lancaster and Webb. So I believe they have locked the bowl slot with that game. So good on Riverside good on Riverside to get the win in Franklin.
Well, again, Daniel Holcomb wasn't able to play this weekend, and they had to put Sonny Reed. But I've really been impressed with Sonny Reed. I think he's running the ball tremendously. He's kind of like having another running back there, a second option for that run attack. Excuse me. And he can also throw the ball. But the story of the night was definitely John Trahan versus John Buchanan. You got a senior versus a sophomore, and it was so interesting. And the game, of course, we all knew anybody who watched the game was going to come down to which back was going to strike last. John Buchanan, 16 rushes for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns, getting over 10 yards per carry. But John Trahan getting it done in multiple ways with a one pass for 7 yards, 3 receptions for 31 yards and a touchdown, and 21 rushes for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that matchup really, really, really was the storyline of the game, and it was really exciting to see those guys go back and forth until the very last play.
So FCA does have 2 more games on their schedule, might be picking up a third one, as we've heard from several sources. A lot of different teams who are out of the playoffs trying to pick up that one more game, especially for their seniors and the rest of their players. But FCA has one more South game next week in Bell Buckle against the Webb School. Matinee game at 4 p.m. This past Friday. Lancaster Christian Academy and St. Andrews Swanee down in Swanee, Tennessee. Sorry to say, Isaiah, you weren't correct on the upset on this
I was right about the first quarter.
You were right about the first quarter.
Ish, kind of. It was close.
58-13, the Lancaster Knights get the victory over the Swanee Mountain Lions. And for Lancaster, they continued. Their only loss in the South thus far has been to the Webb School. If they get a victory against Franklin Classical School on October 12th, and they have a bye week going into this week, but if they get a victory over Franklin Classical, then they will essentially solidify the number 2 slot, and it's possible that they could have the number 1 slot because of the way Virtue is, but if Webb wins, they essentially lock up number 1 seed by tie-breaking Virtue. But for Lancaster, just a good victory for them going down to Swanee, and the Mountain Lions still struggling to get their first win as well.
Yeah, I remember we were on our way down to Jackson to watch the FCS Sacred Heart game, and I looked down at my phone and saw 7-0 Swanee, and I said, Spencer, I actually got an upset right. We ride for about another hour. I peer back down at my phone, and it's 58-13 in favor of Lancaster.
Yeah.
So again, I'm 0 for 2 on my upset predictions. Might not want to go with one this week. We'll see what happens. You got to wait till the end. But Gabe Stevens was a bright spot for Swanee, as he always has been this year. But again, Matt Bowden, I can't say enough about him. He statistically he has been absolutely unstoppable against any team. Even against Webb, he had a great game. And he's going to be really, really interesting to watch come first team all-conference, even conference MVP. That is going to be really interesting to see where he pans out and all that come the end of the season.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to see as Swanee still looking for their first victory. They have a matinee game against Franklin Classical School next week. And the game we broadcast down in Jackson, the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights got the victory in the Clash of the Knights on their homecoming night against Franklin Classical School, 38-0. They got that victory, an impressive feat for Franklin Classic, an impressive feat for Sacred Heart. Franklin Classical again still looking for their first win as well as they have the potential to get their first win as well as Swanee next week as they
that's
face
going to
off
be a good
there.
game.
But Sacred Heart, good on them to get their victory good on them to get their victory on homecoming night, and good on them as they push on through the season.
Yeah, well, this was a long night for Franklin Classical. We heard that Joshua Salstron had broken his hand earlier in the week, and we all thought he was out for the year, but he shows up with a cast on his hand, ready to play defense. That reminds me of his brother a lot. His brother Ben Salster, totally somebody who would do that. But that was only the beginning. So in the second quarter, about the 10-minute mark, Sacred Heart player blows up the line of scrimmage, takes quarterback Samuel Hubbard down to the ground, rushed straight to the hospital, broke his arm all the way across. So our thoughts and prayers are with him. But that was the story of the night for FCS. Things didn't go well for them at all, except Josh Austin got 12 tackles on defense, but the offense was really, really stagnant. On the other hand, for Sacred Heart, that Jalen Brown is fantastic, and it's just great to see how he's developed from when we went to the Sacred Heart game a few weeks ago, even to now. The improvement and the absolute beast that he's become. He got 18 carries for 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one reception for 68 yards and a touchdown. He torched the defense. Anytime he went in, they had guaranteed yardage, and it's going to be interesting to see as the season pans out and the playoffs hopefully pan out for them, that what Jaylen Brown is able to accomplish on the big stage.
Tried to get that cough off of the broadcast there. My apologies to you all. I pressed the wrong button on that one, but it is interesting. Jaylen Brown, fantastic performance, and we're looking to see how Sacred Heart performs and hoping they're playoff eligible, because they would be a very good team to see either in the MTAC Bowl or in the playoffs if things pan out. The Saturday, there were 2 games that happened on Saturday. The Tennessee School for the Deaf, James was right on his predictions. They fell to the Mississippi School for the Deaf 48-6 down in Mississippi. Obviously, they haven't had a game in 2 weeks because of the cancellations for the Hurricanes. So they were hungry to get a first game and potentially wanting to get a victory against Mississippi School for the Deaf from 2 years ago, where they faced off and got blown out at home. But just Tennessee School for the Deaf, unfortunate, falling down 48-6. But they're going to be pressing on as they face off against Georgia School for the Deaf next Saturday.
Yeah, when James told me MSD was a really, really strong team, I even downplayed it a little bit. I still thought the boys were going to go down there and pick up the win, but Mississippi School for the Deaf just so strong and just went in and completely dominated the game at their home field.
Yeah, they dominated down in Mississippi as, again, Tennessee School for the Deaf, they face off against Georgia School for the Deaf at home next Saturday afternoon. And the final game that James and I had a chance to cover, the Webb School traveled up to Mount Juliet, as James corrected me many times of pronouncing, 52-13. Webb got their victory. They remain undefeated on the season, and it was interesting because the Heat had the lead 7-6. They came out strong and such, but Webb took the stronghold and said, "We're not going to let you guys take us down. We're going to keep pressing on," and thus a victory for Webb. So I mean, good on Webb to keep an undefeated season, but the Tennessee Heat, of course, like we said, by the virtue of MTAC tie-breaking scenarios and everything, they are officially eliminated from postseason contention by Lighthouse's victory on Friday night against Bowling Green. Regardless of who wins, who loses, or such, they are potentially eligible for the bowl game at this point. At least I would have to. Well, actually, no, I don't think they are eligible for the bowl game. We were talking with Ryan Scott because he looked through all the tie-breaking scenarios. I'm sure James will correct me on it for skip the sensitivity, but I think the way we talked about it with all the scenarios and tiebreakers, all that kind of stuff, I think the Heat are officially eliminated from even a bowl game slot. But still, and that was their homecoming night too, where they unfortunately fell 52-13. But again, for Webb, it's another victory for them as they press on to host FCA next week.
Yeah, Webb has the strongest 1-2-3 punch, in my opinion, in the league. They got Avante Harris, freshman quarterback, who accounted for 183 total yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half alone. They got Shamar Frey, the star wide receiver. He had a breakout year last year, but this year was even more of a breakout year on top of that breakout year. He got 3 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 rush for 28 yards and a touchdown, and an 82-yard interception run touchdown. And their running back, of course, Emmanuel Onade, 9 rushes, 69 yards. All this happening in the first half. These guys are so dominant, have been so dominant this whole year, and it's going to be exciting to see Webb face off against the rest of their schedule and see if they can get that first seed in the South.
Yeah, they have to win against FCA next week to lock the number 1 seed in the South. So we'll see if they're able to do that down in Bell Buckle next Friday. Now it's time to go to the good, the bad, and the ugly segment. Isaiah's been going through, or it's bad/ugly. It's not bad and ugly because it wants to be a little bit sensitive towards the teams and such. Well, none of the teams have a specific ugly. It's just they all
except me last year.
That I wouldn't agree with that, but of course.
Oh, Spencer.
All right, so we'll start again with a North team, and we'll start with fitting because we broadcast for them last night. The Tennessee Heat. What's their good, bad, and ugly?
Well, last night we saw once again that Preston Sloan is one of the fastest people in the league, maybe top 10, maybe top 5. He has lightning speed, and if he can get out in the open field, he is completely unstoppable. They have speed and they have grit, but a lot of times when they can't control the tempo of a game, they let the other team maintain tempo, and that's what their struggles come from a lot of times. Again, we see this against CCS. They're able to maintain tempo, but once they lose the tempo, the score goes really, really, really fast in the wrong direction. And I've seen that has been a big problem for them this season.
All right, so they've got their struggles with that. All right, down to the South. What we will go ahead and do, let's go with Franklin Christian Academy.
Well, Franklin Christian Academy is an interesting team. You know, of course, they had Holcomb for 2 weeks, so it's kind of hard to tell how much better or worse they are with Sonny Reed back there. But that running attack has been really strong. It's just the experience, again, is the issue. Getting into the fourth quarter and grinding out a game with those seniors. Sonny Reed is leading the charge. He's a senior, but he wasn't did he even play last year?
Sonny Reed?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was a kicker last year. I think he did play last year.
Well, if he did, he wasn't a major contributor. And for those guys, a lot of them, like John Buchanan, he was a big contributor, but only for half the year. So these guys don't know how to win on their own in the fourth quarter. If they win, if they can maintain the lead and run with it, but if they're playing from behind, you better write the casket for Franklin Christian Academy.
Now it's time for the big one. Arguably, stacked as we were talking about before the show, the Golden State of coaching in the MTAC Christian Community School.
Oh, this is an interesting one. So Christian Community, of course, they can do everything on offense. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They got good kickers. They got good defenders. Besides the offensive line that I think has their struggles, I think that one thing that they need to put into their playbook that I haven't seen a lot of is the rollout pass by Nathaniel Rowley. A lot of times when they're playing against teams where the line is getting dominated, defenders are penetrating and getting him in the pocket. If they run a play with a fake handoff and allow the defenders to come inside, Nathaniel Rowley can roll out and find some open field or a receiver that, as the defender, has to pick between him and the receiver on who he's going to guard 9 times out of 10. So I think that the issue isn't necessarily personnel. It's just that there has to be a counter to that pocket pass that they're so accustomed to running.
Just seeing this here on the stream correction, it looks like it was reported wrong in the Tennessee High School Football app. The final score was 44-0, not 38-0 for the Sacred Heart game, unless somebody was getting wrong on there on the chat. I'm pretty sure wasn't it 44-0?
I think it was 38. It was the score at halftime was the final score. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check right now, but we can go on with that.
Yeah, we can look at our game screenshot or look at the ends of that because we got somebody telling us on the chat there it was 44-0. But anyway, so that's Christian Community, and the final team for MTAC on covering their good and bad / ugly is the Webb School Feet.
Oh, that's a tough one because we haven't seen a lot of the feet. Mm-hmm. The issue that might arise is that they have a freshman quarterback, but I think he has played fantastic this year. And besides maybe a little bit of experience in the backfield, I think that this team is destined for the championship game. This team is really, really strong, has a lot of returning cast, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out in the postseason for them. But right now, not a lot of bad, except inexperience from the quarterback position. Not a lot of bad from this Webb team at all.
Anything on Tennessee School for the Deaf for good, mad / ugly? Got anything on them?
Not that I don't have much information on them. I just know that they have an incredible running game, but I'm not sure exactly what happened this past week. I'm going to have to read up on that, maybe read the box score, but I'm not exactly sure how the game turned out. With, it's a very, very strong run game that they have, and I'm surprised that was stopped how it was.
Well, that's the good and the bad / ugly segment from Isaiah. Managed to get it all on there. And looking back at our scoreboard on the final for the game, it was 38-0 down in Jackson. That's what we had on the scoreboard for the game. Somebody thinking it was 44-0. We had 38-0. So someone had to look at the box score for that Sacred Heart side. Skip the Sensitivity is next. We got Mr. James Shannon. You guys should remember anything said by Mr. James Shannon. Solely his opinion, not reflective of 8-Man Extreme. You know the works. All right, James, this is another one of those off-the-cuff question moments because I didn't prepare any questions for you, so it's going to be cool about this. So, playoff scenarios, we've already talked about that for the last few weeks. We basically know what's going to happen here, assuming that everything is solidified. Christian Community number 1 seed, Lighthouse potentially number 2 seed. Either them or, well, I think Lighthouse is almost immediately guaranteed 2nd seed because they're they've had their victory over every other team in the North except for South Haven and Christian Community. So it's looking like the last week maybe locking for the number 1 and 2 seed in the North.
Okay, so I do have confirmation about a couple of these scenarios. I'm not 100% sure about the whole eligibility situation for Lighthouse and Sacred Heart. We have not gotten that yet. I have found out, though, in terms of the new tiebreaker that the league put in place with teams from the South, I do have confirmation on I broke it down on Extreme Talk. Each team has 2 games that they have to play in the other division, and those games help determine tiebreaker. So in the situation of a tie, which there's only one scenario that happens, and that's if Lighthouse loses to either South Haven or Christian Community, and if Sacred Heart beats Bowling Green Christian. If that happens, you have a 3-way tie between Sacred Heart, Lighthouse, and the Heat. In that situation, it would go to the default first game, the default team in the South as the tiebreaker. For Sacred Heart, that's Riverside Christian. For Lighthouse, it's Franklin Christian Academy. And for the Heat, it's Webb. So if you look at that situation, Sacred Heart beat Riverside, Lighthouse beat FCA, and the Heat lost to Webb last night. So Sacred Heart and Lighthouse obviously come out of that they win that tiebreaker technically, and then it's head-to-head. Sacred Heart beat Lighthouse. So in that situation where it could be a tie, it would be Christian Community 1, Sacred Heart 2, Lighthouse in the bowl game, and that's if Lighthouse loses to either South Haven or CCS, right? Correct. And because that would put them at 3-2 if they went 1-1 coming up. And if Sacred Heart beats Bowling Green. Now, if if Bowling Green beats Sacred Heart, then obviously Bowling Green will be 2-3. Yeah, 2-3, and Sacred Heart will be 2-3, and Lighthouse it wouldn't matter.
So they'd be in the playoff spot, second seed.
Heat would be the third. Yeah, Lighthouse would be in the playoffs. Heat would be in the bowl game.
How would Heat be in the bowl game?
So if Bowling Green beats Sacred Heart, then they're both going to be sitting at 3-2. Heats are at 2-3 rather. Heats are sitting at 3-2, and Lighthouse Christian right now is 2-1. And if they happen to split the next 2 games, they're going to go 3-2, but they hold the tiebreaker over the Heat. So they're in the playoffs. Now there's one situation where Christian Community, despite their unbeaten season so far, would not have the number 1 seed, and that is
if they lose to Lighthouse.
If they lose to Lighthouse, if barring a South Haven upset over Lighthouse, if Lighthouse beats Christian Community, Lighthouse has the number 1 seed. Heat would have the number 3 seed. Of course, Christian Community would have the number 2 and travel to wherever in the South. It's a crazy situation. Last night obviously sorted a whole lot out with having 2 division games. It helped out a whole lot. In the South, right now, what it looks like is it's going to be barring a FCA and Swanee upset of Webb, which you could pick FCA for the upset. anything's possible, but that's the games they still have left. Lancaster obviously has Franklin Classical, and they topped St. Andrews Swanee. So barring a classical upset of Lancaster, you're going to have Webb as the first seed, Lancaster as the second seed, and Riverside Christian will play in the MTAC Bowl.
So that'd be matchup of, at least assuming things play out the way they do, it'd be Christian Community hosting Lancaster, Webb hosting Lighthouse, and you'd have in the bowl game, what you said it was Heat.
It'd be Heat Riverside.
Heat Riverside.
The most likely scenario, barring
upsets,
Sacred Heart beating Bowling Green, which really isn't an upset. It's actually
potential.
I would put it on a pretty even playing field. Even more so because Sacred Heart beat Lighthouse and Lighthouse just beat Bowling Green. So, in terms of that, I would almost say that Sacred Heart would be favored in that game. But if that scenario happened where if Sacred Heart beats Bowling Green, you have the three-way tie. And, again, that's if Lighthouse beats CCS, three-way tie, and Lighthouse would end up taking the bowl spot. So then we would have a Riverside Lighthouse Bowl, which could actually be pretty good. And it would also make Sacred Heart travel to Webb. Another interesting rematch.
Now, here's one thing we want to clarify. We want every team to be eligible for the playoffs every season. We love all of the teams in MTAC. We love all these guys. Right now, we do not know if Sacred Heart nor Lighthouse are eligible, and the reason we don't is because per MTAC bylaws, letter of the law says that because Sacred Heart, this is their first year back in the league, they're on a probation year, and it says per the words in the MTAC bylaws. At least 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say 2017.
As of 2017, because 2018.
Because we obviously know what the tiebreaker situation is right now.
Even though it's not
and it's not in the bylaws that are on the website. So
they haven't updated it. So
they haven't updated it. So according to the 2017 version.
Yeah, 2017 it says, according to that, if a team that is on a probation year is postseason eligible if they are voted in prior to the scheduling meeting. And we were there February of this year. Scheduling meetings.
They weren't even there.
Sacred Heart wasn't there.
Which they were intending to play 11. They had their old coach, and all of them coming back into the league really transpired over the summer. Right. So they got the new coach and decided to come back to MTAC and 8-man.
And we've asked several board members. They don't know. we have asked some people. We haven't gotten responses.
President?
Nothing against that. Nothing.
I'm sure they're busy.
Yep.
But it's still frustrating to not even get a hey. Can we get now? From some people, we have gotten to let me get back to you.
Yes.
But there's people who haven't responded at all, and that's super frustrating.
Yeah, because as a media outlet, I could say personally on my part, I can't speak for James, but I'm on the side of the league. I'm on more the side of the caution of making sure that everybody's accommodated for and we're not burning down any bridges. But it gets frustrating when we're the only media outlet that's about the players, about giving exposure to the conference, getting these guys, and it regardless of whether or not the league is communicating with us, it looks bad on our part to you guys who are watching. It looks bad it looks really bad that we do not know that we don't know what the answers are, and we really want to be able to convey that information to you, but as of now, some people have told us they'll get back to us, and we're pending those answers.
And I appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Exactly.
That's honesty. That's saying, listen, I don't know, or I'm not 100% certain. Let me get back to you. That's cool. We can deal with that.
Exactly.
That's not completely ignoring.
Yeah, it's just at this point, we haven't gotten any answers, and some of the coaches are saying, I think they're eligible and such. But anyways, so
there's no reason that coaches shouldn't know.
That's in terms of Sacred Heart, is that letter of the bylaws that you have to be voted in prior to the scheduling meeting. And as we know, they were not. So we don't know if they're eligible or not.
We don't know if they were granted a waiver or,
yes.
Now they're not acting and they're not playing like they're not eligible. I mean,
exactly.
They're playing completely like they're eligible. So
that's what I was going to say as well. We talked to Coach Judd Powers about it before the game until we haven't gotten answers yet on anything either. And he said, don't tell the kids that. But he said it doesn't matter whether we're eligible or not. We're still going to play as if we're eligible.
Yeah.
Which is very noble. I respect that.
That's awesome. And they should be. They have zero to be. They have zero to pack up this year.
For their first season back in MTAC, it's been spectacular to see what they've done.
I was wrong. I was massively wrong on them. I was wrong on them and Webb. I was wrong on South Haven. I had them doing better. But, Webb, I feel genuinely bad for going so low on Sacred Heart because their kids have just completely, just all the freshmen they've got, Jake Keel, Will Hugley, just Jalen Brown coming out as a senior, and that's without some guys like Kylon Holder that could have played. So they've been able to just get their team together, and they've had some gutsy wins. A couple tough losses to some really good team. They had one loss to a really good Heat team. I do say a good Heat team. It was just a tough game, and then obviously their only other loss was technically a forfeit to Christian Community the first week of the year. So other than a tight loss to the Heat, they haven't been blown out all year. So I would consider them dangerous if they do get in that number 2 seed.
Yeah,
I would be very scared of what they could do. And they play Lancaster the last week of the year. So
exactly.
that could give us a good taste of what they could do.
Exactly. Now, in terms of Lighthouse, MTAC bylaws also say, and again, 2017 because 2018 isn't on the website. Bylaws say,
to be brutally honest.
Yep, you have to have your roster reported in. I believe it's the second Friday of August, maybe the third Friday August.
I will triple check that.
Now. He's checking the bylaws right now to see if it's accurate. But you have to have your roster reported in either August 10th, August 17th. Lighthouse didn't start practice until the week of their first game against Sacred Heart, August 24th.
The last week of August.
Yes, the last week of August. They didn't start their game until. Is that what you're saying? Is that the bylaw? Or
I'm saying they their first game. Check the health schedule.
Their first game was August 24th.
Yeah,
last week in August. And when we asked them for a roster, that's what we were told, and they gave us a handwritten roster for numbers and such. And as far as we know, so I did send a question to one of the MTAC board members, and the response I got was that all teams are required to submit their roster by this deadline. Didn't really answer my question.
That's not an answer to the question.
It was giving to the bylaws, and I said, okay, I'm just glad to know that teams are eligible and such. That's what I responded with, but it didn't answer the question of if Lighthouse is eligible or not because they didn't get the roster time.
Here's the letter. Here's the letter of the law. This is MTAC bylaws, Article 4, Section 7, under eligibility forms, official game rosters, and official game schedules. Give me just a second.
Yeah, James is.
Okay. Had to check sound real quick.
No worries.
Okay, so the MTAC League Administrator, who is Jenna.
Yes, Jenna Jones.
Must receive rosters 2 weeks before the first game of the season.
So
my question is, how were they able to? Now, I'm assuming, I don't know if you have to send updates to your roster or if you have to edit it. I don't know what that situation. Let me look down. Okay, this answers it. Additions to rosters must be made through the MTAC president before the players compete in their first MTAC game, which their first game was Sacred Heart. Mm-hmm. Failure to submit a roster by the first scheduled contest will result in the potential forfeit to be determined by the MTAC board of all contests until a roster is submitted, and a $25 per game fine will be imposed. Eligibility list. An eligibility list containing the name of each student who is to participate during the season in each sport shall be filed online prior to the first contest allowed by the sports calendar for each sport. If a student whose name does not appear on the original eligibility list wishes to become a member of the squad, the student's name shall be filed with the conference before the student is allowed to participate. Failure to file will result in a $50 fine.
So that's the letter of the law. Now, that's one reason. That's not
speculation.
Yeah, that's not speculation. That's literally what the bylaws say. So, like James said, the question is, how did they get their roster?
If they started practice the week of their first game, which was Sacred Heart, on August 24th, y'all broadcasted it. If they started practice on that Monday, now granted, they could have known their roster beforehand and just
didn't get one
and
typed
again,
up.
if you look at their roster on Max Preps, they've got players from 2 years ago on there. So, who knows? I'm not going to get into that. I'm not trying to throw dirt. This is skip the sensitivity.
Full disclosure, we're not dissing Lighthouse here. This isn't an attack on Lighthouse.
I'm just breaking down what I've got. Okay. Yeah. If they started practice the week of their first game on Monday, unless they knew 2 weeks before that what their roster was and they just couldn't start practice, but they knew exactly every player that was going to be playing. If that's not the case, then they would have had to submit every roster change. Now, they could have submitted a roster and then said, okay, now we're going to add this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy and get them cleared through the president and get them eligible. They could have done that. Very, very possible. But again, and I'm not saying that they didn't. We're not saying that they're not eligible. We're saying we would like confirmation that they're eligible, and that's it. Because here's the crazy, crazy thing. If they are not eligible, and Sacred Heart's not eligible, you have Christian Community 1, you would have the Tennessee Heat at 2, and you would have Bowling Green Christian going to the bowl game. So that completely changes the whole scope of the playoffs. If you have one or the other eligible, that would change it completely. So it's super frustrating to be 5 weeks out or be 3 weeks out from the end of the season and not know what teams are eligible for the postseason. That is just I'm all about. I would like to have a good relationship with the conference and with the president and the board. I really do. But in my opinion, the reason the 8-man Extreme got started, the reason I started it, was for the parents and the players and the coaches. And I'll tell y'all this, not to toot our horn, but Friday night, how long did it take y'all to get to your car Friday night?
I guess just to answer your question, even though I that's one of those things I don't really, publicly talk about just because,
I'm not pumping us up.
I know. But in the sake of this, I will answer your question. When we were walking past when we were getting our equipment packed up and walking to our car and such, we did, factual again, we had a lot of parents from Sacred Heart who were recognizing Isaiah and I, talking to us about the conference, asking us about questions of other players because they recognize us as 8-man Extreme.
And that's not the first game that's happened or the only game.
It has.
And that's not the first game that I've been to games where I just go to games and people are like, "Oh, you're from 8-man Extreme," and we start talking. That is success to me. Because when the parents and the fans, or the parents and the players feel like they have people that they can talk to about it who are knowledgeable, that's success. So, yeah, I want a great relationship with the conference, but I do think it's completely inexcusable that those questions are still remaining. There's another massive question out there that the conference still has not answered. I said this the first Extreme Talk. This is Get Sensitivity. I said the first Extreme Talk. They want to do some of the big boy things. They don't want to do all of them. 5 weeks out, where's your conference championship going to be hosted?
We have hearsay on that. We don't have confirmation.
But 5 weeks out, no confirmation. Zero. How do you not have that locked in by now? And you know what? If you've got a place that's possible, okay, so let's get another one on the back burner. And 5 weeks out, okay, if you can't lock it in, we're going to go find somewhere else. We're going to get somewhere locked in, and for sure. That's what you got to do. You don't hear about the TSSAA. Everyone, the league wants to be like the TSSAA. They want to say, well, they don't allow the media to come into their board meetings. The TSSAA say this. Well, guess what? TSSAA, 5 weeks out, there's no question about where their championship game is at all. There's zero. You never hear about that. It's locked in for sure. Now, I know they have a lot more teams and a lot more cogs turning and a lot more gears turning. But still, it's completely inexcusable for those two questions to just be floating out there in outer space. But that's my opinion.
Real quick. On Lighthouse's roster, because again, we don't know if it's submitted or not. I don't know if we want to bring this up necessarily.
Let's bring it up. We're skipped to sensitivity.
All right. So the discussions. So we had some discussions around, and we right when we got that Lighthouse roster. I texted it. I updated it for you. I texted it to you. right when we got that Lighthouse roster, you told me 2 of the players on Lighthouse were from the Tennessee Heat last year.
They played for the Tennessee Heat last year. Yeah.
You immediately told me that. So that's the other question: did they get waivers?
Exactly.
So
did they get a hardship waiver? Why were they granted the hardship waiver? A great example. Here, it's crazy because, and I didn't find this out from the league. I found this out through other sources that actually had knowledge of it. A picture-perfect example of how to handle a kid transferring from one school to the other is Sam Nestor, transferring from Franklin Classical School to Franklin Christian Academy. Perfect example. Applied for the hardship clause. I reached out to Coach Steve Adams. I said, "Hey, how did this work? Did you get a hardship waiver?" Yes, he got a hardship waiver. Isaiah, here he was able to tell us what's going on with that situation. He was able to help figure that out, and different people. And so, come to find out, Sam's brother, I'm not going to get into it, but he had to change schools, so they allowed Sam to change schools. So just a perfect way to handle that situation. That was textbook how to handle it. But it's crazy because, a situation like that, and there's no answers being given out anywhere by anybody. It's very in-house, very quiet. That's not a big boy thing to do at all. I don't care who you are, what you say. That's not a big boy thing to do. Skip the sensitivity opinion.
I will say this. Because
don't you be taking my skip the sensitivity?
Of course not. No, I'll say this at least on my behalf. Again, like I said earlier in this segment, I personally don't have any major problems with the conference. Any problems I did have from last year, anything like that, those are gone. I already talked with people. I settled them.
I don't have any beef.
No, I know you don't. But
I don't have any beef.
But at least for me, as a member of the media, it is frustrating because I've sent texts, I've asked questions, and I've hardly gotten any responses. Now, again, I've had people who have told me, we'll get back to you. You've had people telling you.
I've had people.
Yeah,
that's
appreciated. That. But again, the conference championship location, still no confirmation on it. All we have is hearsay from 3 credible sources that are seeming like it's fairly accurate. And I'm trying to. Hopefully, I'll be able to pin that down for you guys this week because I'm personally going to try and talk to some people, figure out what's going on, talk to my sources, and James will be talking to his sources, not just for the conference championship, but for roster eligibility. This question has been going on the full season.
Yeah.
It's been going on the whole season, and we've had some sources tell us, well, I think they're eligible. I don't know. I don't know. And again, I was talking to James about this. Because we're the only media source, regardless of whether or not we are getting answers and getting confirmations on this stuff, at the end of the day, it still looks bad on us because we don't know. Because even though it's that we're not getting the information, it still looks bad on us.
To a certain extent.
And yes.
I've kind of moved past that at this point. I'm of the mind frame of, you know what? As long as people know, and you know what, that's part of the reason we're talking about it here on the show, because we want people to know we have reached out to people, we have tried to contact, we have tried to find out, and we're not getting any answers. Whether it be just ignoring or I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you.
Yes.
It's some kind of recognition that, you know what, I got you. Don't leave us on red. For you old people, that means that you saw the text and you're not responding.
For those not tech savvy.
There's old people out there that don't understand that. But here's the thing. The league doesn't even have to, and the board doesn't even have to tell us. Just put it out there. Let us respond to it. I've been saying this for a long time. The MTAC board meetings, we tried to get access to them so we could sit in and make notes and report on them. They said, no, we don't want you at the meetings. And that's fine. But put out minutes or put out some kind of, let people know. Isaiah wants to chime in.
Yeah, I think everything that is agreed upon or that they come to a resolution about in the meeting has to be in writing and has to be in the public eye.
Minus financial stuff.
No, I know.
Minus financial stuff.
If they make a decision about a school or about a future rule, it has to be it has to be in public immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely.
Or else that's good. That makes a situation where a team could make a mistake and not know that they made it.
You see that with the TSSAA everywhere. A great example of that this last week, all the rain we got, it was supposed to be the TSSAA golf championship tournament. It ended up getting canceled after the first day. TSSAA took to social media, let everyone know that. Cleared the air. They said, this is when this is how we're going to handle trophies. This is when they'll be given out. This is where they'll be given out. Bam. Give all the information out there. If this was MTAC, we might not have known that the tournament was canceled. We wouldn't know if there was a tournament or where the tournament was. So, completely different ways of handling it, and you could say we want to handle it like them, but you're only handling it in certain ways. So, yeah. And like Isaiah said, I couldn't agree more. If it's something that is confirmed, if it's something that's iffy, don't worry about it. Financial stuff, don't worry about it. That's cool. But stuff as to whether a school is eligible or where your championship is, you got to have
stuff.
That's big stuff.
It's the schools that could or could not be eligible that don't even know yet. We're 3 weeks out from the playoffs,
Right.
and Sacred
Nobody
Heart,
knows.
Sacred Heart's head coach was, wait a minute, we might not be eligible, just found
Right,
out.
when we
right.
explained it
Like
to
he
him,
had
yeah.
no idea.
This Friday. It's week 8.
Yeah.
Coming up on week 9.
Shout out to your dad, by the way.
What?
He said we old people know left. He said left on red. By the way, left
But
on
he spelled
red.
R-E-D.
R-E-D.
Left on red.
It's R-E-A-D. Left on red. If you look at it,
right.
says red.
Now, I'll close with this.
Left on read.
I'll close with this before we do our game predictions, because I know you guys want to know how our All-Star selection is, and you want to know what
We got to
think
get
about
to
this
that.
weekend's game.
That's massive.
I will close with this. To the MTAC board, to the MTAC president, I have respect for every member on that board. I personally talked with every member on that board. I've had great conversations with everyone. League president, such. I have a lot of respect for you guys and what you do. The amount of conversations.
We all do.
I love you all as people.
We all do.
James does. Isaiah does. From the people he's talked to.
Yes.
So we all have respect for you. I implore you, just answer our questions or acknowledge, if you haven't already, acknowledge that you're looking into it, because this whole not answering our questions,
Ignorance is bliss.
and not giving us the answers, it's frustrating. And look, I understand that there's only one person in the league who's paid, and that's the league administrator. I get that. There's only one person who's actually paid to do it. The rest of them have full-time jobs. I get that. But we're like James said, we're 5 weeks out from the championship. We don't know where it is. We're 3 weeks out from the playoffs. We don't know who's eligible or not.
And especially if the championship game is somewhere that we're speculating. I don't know if we're supposed to say it on air. But
we'll save it.
We'll not say it.
we would, in that case, we would have to figure out another option with streaming. So this is for us too. We need to know.
Not only that, but here's the other
As
thing.
long as it's not held at Swanee,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
St. Andrews Swanee.
Yeah.
As long as it's not at St. Andrews Swanee School, the
can
college
stream anywhere.
the college would be fine. But as long as it's not at St. Andrews Swanee, we're cool.
Yeah.
But we have signal
Okay.
everywhere else.
Yeah. And another thing we hinted at about last on Friday with our broadcast and such, we're trying to work it out so that we can also broadcast all of the postseason games, doing it high quality, scoreboard, everything. We're trying to work that out so we can broadcast it, not just so everybody else could see it, but the fact is, we're wanting to make sure the players in the conference is getting exposure. That's what we're here for. So we're trying to make it so that we can broadcast all of them. But again, it's difficult because we don't know. I mean, we have the host sites that are lined up, but we don't know which teams are going to the playoffs. We just don't know. But again, to the conference, to the board members, to those who may know the answers, or if they don't, they need to talk in committee and figure this out.
Don't leave us on red.
I implore you, please give us the answers this week. If
Or
you don't,
let us know that you'll look into the answers.
or at least by this week, let us know that you'll look into the answers, because tomorrow's October. Tomorrow is October, and your playoffs are supposed to be the last weekend of October. That's when the schedule
You're
is.
3 weeks out.
And we don't
4
know.
weeks out.
So I implore you, if you don't want to talk to James, that's fine. He understands fully.
I'm busy
that-
anyways.
Yeah, he's busy anyway. All of
Spencer
us are
doesn't
busy.
have a life.
Exactly. I don't know that, but please,
I'm just kidding.
Whoever you want to talk to, just please give us either an answer this week, or tell us that you're looking into it to make the decision, because we don't know. And Yeah,
Parents
not just
don't
us.
know.
Parents don't know.
Coaches
players
don't know.
Coaches don't even know. One of your member school coaches, we had to tell him that they may not be eligible, and he was shocked. He didn't even know.
That's inexcusable.
And
No matter how you slice that butter, it's inexcusable.
again, I'll repeat myself. I'm a proponent of the conference. I'm a fan of all the members on the board. I respect them all, but we need answers. The parents need answers. Even if you don't want to tell us, put it on your website, put it on your Facebook page, put it on your Twitter. Do something like that.
How's this? Other people on the board need members because there's board members that don't know.
Yeah, because we've asked a good amount of the
couple board members and they don't know. So,
yep.
or you know.
Yep.
So
we've talked to some. We just don't. The main answer we've gotten when we've asked some board members is just we don't know, and we want to know. Parents want to know.
There's too many we don't knows.
Too many at this point. So I implore you, those of you on the MTAC board, please let us know. Let us know this week either your answer or that we're deciding this, and this is the day we'll get you the answer because it's getting too close, guys.
Or don't tell us and put it on social media. Anyways.
Yep.
Now that we've
had
that was a good skip to sensitivity.
Straight up, yeah. I have a feeling
there's no sensitivity.
I'm gonna get some phone calls. We're gonna get some
cool.
phone calls.
You were respectful. We didn't disrespect anybody. Didn't name names.
As far as I know. Okay. Game predictions before we get into the All-Star selection process and then announce our broadcast. So, top of your helmet schedules, top to bottom. We only have a few teams active this week. A lot of them are taking their bye weeks this week, so it's kind of inactive. It is fall break time.
It's fall break.
Not for us college students. We have fall break during week 10.
Yeah, and it's only 2 days.
We only have 2 days.
Guess what? When you work a full-time job and you're married, you
don't get fall breaks.
Fall break is your vacation hours, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get almost
we'll get away.
You get
for
almost every federal
game.
holiday. So, like most places close for veterans.
I don't get
Day
bank holidays.
Oh, you don't get the bank holidays.
I get New Year's Day, Christmas Day, Easter. Oh, obviously Easter. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Thanksgiving.
So you don't get as many holidays. But anyway,
no.
All right. So
our alarm doesn't rest.
In the north, Bowling Green, South Haven, Lighthouse, Sacred Heart. All 4 are on bye weeks. 4 of 6 north teams are on bye weeks. The Tennessee Heat, they travel down to Fayetteville to face off against the Riverside Christian Academy Knights. And we were saying it on broadcast last night, James and I were. This may be a matchup of the bowl game, Isaiah.
Could be a preview.
This may be a preview of the bowl game if things work out in favor of the Tennessee Heat. But it may be Riverside Tennessee Heat in the bowl game. But regardless, they've still got some good players in Crutcher Rizell, Riley Hall, John Trey, and that offensive-defensive line for Riverside is doing pretty well. They can hold their own. But the Tennessee Heat, they've got some firepower on offense. They've got Preston Sloan, who's fast, and he might be able to outrun that defensive secondary for Riverside.
Can we cancel this game and just have a foot race between Preston Sloan and John Trahan?
that might be just as fun. That might be just as fun. But Isaiah, Tennessee Heat, Riverside, it's going to be a heck of a ball game in Fayetteville.
Yeah, it will be. 2 teams that are pretty similar. A lot of guys, a lot of freshmen through junior talent. Except for John Trahan, of course, their star player on the field, but I think it's going to come down to which offense is going to be able to be more dominant in this game. And for the Heat, their calling card is defense, and their calling card is setting the pace of the game. But I think with Preston Sloan and who's the quarterback? What's his
Brandon
name?
Goolsby.
All right, Goolsby. I think he's going to have a bounce back game, and
he needs one.
Yeah, and we're gonna see a final score 26-14 win for the Heat in Fayetteville.
I have got the Heat picked as well. Again,
wow.
As everyone knows, I'm sticking to the predictions I made before the season. I had the Heat only losing 1 or 2 games, so that's why I keep picking the Heat. But I've got the Heat picked in this one. Very winnable game for Riverside. John Trahan, Jake Grubelski, the list goes on. And Michael Black. If Goolsby does not have a bounce-back game, Michael Black, who has like 2 or 3 interceptions on the year, could ruin his night. Crutcher Rizell is just so dangerous. John Knotts could do what Brandon Azar did last night for Webb and just gum up that middle. And for the Heat on defense, they're solid throughout. They've got to get some kind of a middle linebacker. or otherwise, they're going to gash them with Crutcher-Rizal and Trahan. So I have the Heat picked on this one as well, but it's a very winnable game for Riverside.
It's going to be close. Christian Community, they host the Freedom Cowboys. The first time and the only time this season that the Freedom Cowboys play any teams in MTAC. The independent team out of Huntsville, Alabama. They travel up to White House. I think the record right now is 5-1, is what we said last night. So they're 5-1. Christian Community is right now 6-0. Actually, are they 7-0?
They're 7-0.
They're 7-0 right now. The 7-0 Colts. I had an X over the Sacred Heart game there, so that's why I was.
Yeah, I mean it still counts as a win.
Yep, counts as a forfeit win.
And technically, Freedom has a forfeit win. So if you want to take the forfeit wins away, it's 4-1 and 6-0. But
regardless, still close on there. But Isaiah, the Freedom Cowboys always put up a solid football club. They always put up guys who are very strengthened and very skilled, especially in the secondary. But Christian Community, they beat them last year. I think it could be a repeat for this year.
Yeah, well, last year the Cowboys game that I played in, the Cowboys, we don't know a lot about the Cowboys, of course, because they're out of state. They don't play a lot of in-conference games, but they were not as strong last year as we're used to seeing them. But this year, they seem to have improved quite a bit. They're both teams are ranked top 10 nationally, as CCS is number 1, of course. And I think it's going to be a good ball game. That is for the first half. And I think that Freedom's going to be able to put up 2 touchdowns on Christian Community in the first half. But after that, Christian Community is going to dictate the pace on their home field. And, I mean, I'm excited to see what the special is this week. Do you know, James?
What do you mean the special?
For the concessions.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Philly special.
I'm taking 48-14 Christian Community.
It doesn't matter what the special is. Anything's good.
No, they could make just a slice of cheese, and it would taste like
taste like a smoked.
They could just
Gouda.
have like a block of cheddar cheese and just.
They make it taste like a smoked Gouda. But Who you got, James?
I've got CCS as well. Again, preseason, I didn't know how Freedom was going to do, so you obviously take the in-state boys. But Freedom this year, like I said, they're 5-1. I'm actually pulling up their schedule right now. They beat a team 72-45, 50-20, 42-22, and then they just had a 38-8 win this last Friday night. So obviously they've got some really good wins under their belt. They're going to have to make the drive up here to CCS. They've got a long rivalry with CCS. They beat CCS at CCS 2 years ago. Myself and JD Young did that game. We were all hype, and then they just went up there and whooped up on CCS. So I do have CCS picked on this one. This could be a good game as well. There's few games this week, but there's good quality games that I would love to go to. But I've got CCS picked on this one.
All right, you guys got CCS, so the only other team active in the north, both of you guys got Christian Community representing Tennessee on that one. Like we said, Riverside Christian hosts the Tennessee Heat. The Franklin Christian Academy Falcons, they traveled down to the Webb School in Bell Buckle. And again, we established this last night. If Webb wins, they lock the number 1 seed. Tiebreakers and all, if for some reason they lose to Swanee and Lancaster wins a game, it's still tie-breaking scenario in the South because of head-to-head competition there. So Webb locks the number 1 seed if they beat Franklin Christian this Friday. So I'm sure neither of you would say it's impossible because anything is possible, but Webb has so much strength in their bench. They have so much depth that FCA, they may not be able to compete, but I think FCA, they have John Buchanan, so it's going to be a really great matchup to see, John Buchanan and Shamar Frey running the ball on both sides of the field.
Well, just going based off the presumption that Holcomb is not going to be playing this week. Don't know for sure, but we're just going to go based on that, knowing that he's missed the past 2 weeks. Holcomb doesn't play. That eliminates the pass game almost completely from this FCA team, and that's what gives them the second dimension. John Buchanan is having a great year, but I don't think this defensive line of Webb is going to be messing around. They're going to come in strong, especially Brandon Azar clogging up those holes in the front. That's where John Buchanan makes most of his money. I think it's going to be a dominance on the line of scrimmage by Webb, and that's going to dictate the game. I have Webb winning 62-6.
Man,
It's a big.
I'll tell you something about Webb that I was very impressed with last night. I think I'd heard of Jordan Jenkins before. Obviously, he hasn't had a great year to where we've known about him, but last year just had a complete coming out party, and they've got so many people they can turn to. Niall Archer had a quiet night, but he's a threat for them. Everyone knows about Shamar Frey. Emmanuel Nade has been there for a while. Like I said, Jenkins. I mean, they've got dudes all over the place that they can hit. Their quarterback came up out of nowhere, and then on the defensive side of the ball, they're solid as well. So, they're a well-rounded team. Somebody told us last night who's played both Webb and CCS. They said, to be honest, if it comes down to Webb CCS, I'm taking Webb. And I was very surprised by that. But you know what? That would be a heck of a ball game. And we're barring a lot of upsets, that could be the game we're headed towards. And it could determine whether or not CCS goes to the NHSA tournament in Florida. Right now, they're number one in both the NHSA and the NAAPS poll. And, they're rolling. They just had their offensive lineman, Zach Rogers, get invited to the All-American game in January that you guys are going to go call for the NAAPS. Another big Tennessee football player got invited to that game as well, Isaiah. We know. But they're rolling and they're making college offers. Something cool. I got an email from a guy from Lions College in Arkansas, and he wanted to reach out to Coach Flanders about some players. So they're rolling right now. They've got a lot of things going on. Webb's got a lot of things going on. This could be one of the most highly anticipated matchups for the championship. Really in a while. I mean, Sacred Heart and Webb was upsets 2 years ago. South Haven kind of had an upset. Webb had an off night. We almost had a CCS Webb championship last year too. But you had 15 was FCA and CCS. That was a pretty hyped up matchup. So, it's been a while since we've had two teams that are just on a collision course for each other. There's no slowing down right now. And, to be honest, I question that if CCS played an 11-man game right now, if they would win. They might win. So, and Webb lost. So you never know. It could go either way. But there's a lot of hype that if that game goes down, if it's Webb CCS, that's going to be a very, very good game.
Yep, so it'll be a competitive game for both of them. And a matinee on Friday, the St. Andrew Swanee Mountain Lions host the Franklin Classical School Knights. And again, both of these teams have not won a game this season. Both of them will be looking for their first victory. So Isaiah, we look at both of these teams, and obviously, Swanee, they're a rush heavy team. They focus fully on their rushing game. They pass a little bit with Gabe Stevens, but not too much. And Classical, they're especially, they still got Saulstrand a little bit healthy. He's got a little bit of problems there, and they still have their guy playing with his broken wrist. They still have
Saulstrand. Yeah,
Saulstrand's got his broken wrist in there, so he's somewhat elderly.
Well, he left halfway through the game, and I'm just going to tell you straight out, I went to him after the game and said, do not play. You are a 15-year-old. You do not need to do that. If you were a senior.
Is it freshman or sophomore?
He's a sophomore.
Sophomore.
If you're a senior, I would even be shaky on it. Like, you do not play with a broken hand. You break your hand at 15 years old and play through it. I mean, that's awesome for him. Like, that is. I am so proud of that kid. Just like that's a respect thing. But you've done it. Your teammates saw you. You're highly respected. You won over the locker room. It's time to call it a season.
Yeah,
it is.
You tried
because it's like a 1 month recovery. So he'll be back if he makes the All-Star game or whatever. But he can't. Well, I would sit for the rest of the year.
It'd be one thing if he played this game with injury and he had like 100 rushing yards and a touchdown or two, and he showed that, hey, you know what, this is not going to affect me any. But he looked very. He
got hurt. He got hurt.
There's a difference between hurt and injured. I think he's injured.
Well, he was experiencing a lot of pain in the game. I said the first time you feel even a thump in that hand, you get out. It's broken.
Right. Call it, pack it in.
5 weeks can turn to 5 months in a matter of seconds.
Exactly. You do not want to detriment your career as in your sophomore year.
But regardless of that, your prediction on that one.
Well,
remember, you want to be allowed back on the Franklin Classical campus.
No, I think it's going to be a good game, and I think it's a game that both teams need. One team has to come out of there with a win. Someone does.
Because there's no ties in high school football, are there?
Nope.
Yep, they don't.
I'm sure they tie it if it went to midnight, but I don't think it's gonna. I think one team they're both so short on personnel. It is not lasting until midnight.
If it went to midnight from 4 in the afternoon, there would be a serious problem there.
Someone's gonna win. Someone's gonna win, and that someone's gonna be St. Andrew Swanee. And I'll tell you why. Too many close.
No, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, so we agree.
Why do you think St.
I think that the Knights are going to be able to score a couple touchdowns because of their kick return game. They're going to be able to get good field position. But St. Andrew Swanee, Gabe Stevens is too much of a beast to be stopped by that front line. I think the final score is going to be 36-20.
Gabe Stevens has been a complete revelation. He wasn't even going to play, and he decided to come back to the school and play. His parents are in Haiti, I believe.
Wow!
And so, yeah, I think they're missionaries. I might be completely off on that, but he came back and they decided to put him at quarterback since he's very familiar with the system. DeAndre Tate was playing well. Baylor Metcalf was playing well. But Gabe Stevens has just been a complete whole nother level for them. And they almost beat Bowling Green. They almost beat Lighthouse. Just so many close games. You know, Bowling Green and Lighthouse, two teams with winning records that are in postseason contention. So if you play that close with them, I don't think there's any question that that they could win this game, and they could win this game big.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. And then last game we've got on the helmet schedule here, Tennessee School for the Deaf. They host the Georgia School for the Deaf Saturday at 2 p.m. Good matinee one. That's going to be an interesting game for them because, again, they're coming off their loss. They're coming off of 2 weeks of not playing any games. They are 1-1 on their season, so they're looking for a good win at home out there in Knoxville.
Yeah, I'm excited to go see this game. We're going to this one, right? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to find out in 2 minutes anyway. Yeah, we're going down there. But
Georgia is 1-3 right now, and so and Tennessee is rolling. Tennessee had 3 injuries in the game last night, and they were super banged up. Their second best, their second or third best player actually ended up getting kicked off the team. So they're reeling a little bit right now, but I think they'll reboot. And like Isaiah said, I'm stoked to go to this. I haven't been up there in 2 years, and I'm stoked to go to this game and call it and bring it to y'all. And then in 2 weeks they turn around and come here to Nashville, so make sure you catch that one too.
So that'll be good. All right, Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm going with the Tennessee School for the Deaf win too.
Tennessee boy.
Yeah, you always got
a score on that one.
Tennessee.
You got a score on that one?
Nope, because I don't know anything about Georgia.
I'm saying it's going to be close.
Yeah, well, the difference with this is that I know Tennessee School for the Deafs, their weak points and their strengths and stuff, but like from teams from out of state and stuff, it's hard to scout.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
What do you got, James?
I got Tennessee School for the Deaf winning it as well. I'm going to stick with the in-state boys.
You stick with them this week, but not last week.
Yeah.
But you were right on your prediction with
I was
Mississippi.
right.
You were correct on that
Homework.
Okay, you guys you already leaked our Saturday broadcast.
Sorry.
Hey, James has done it beforehand. We'll just go ahead and tell you guys and then get into the All-Star things. So instead of, switching it to the end. So, our extreme game of the week this week. There we go. Finally get a drum roll.
Hey, James can do the drum roll now.
Yeah, he can.
He's in studio.
For this week.
James and Isaiah will have the call in Bell Buckle. They'll be live for the Webb School hosting Franklin Christian Academy for that impactful game on the playoffs as Webb tries to lock the number 1 seed in FCA.
More so than this game, you know what I'm excited about? We've never called a game before. So
who's color and who's play-by-play?
Play-by-play.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You guys are calling that game on Friday, and then Saturday you already leaked it. You guys are taking the trip out to Knoxville for Tennessee School for the Deaf hosting the Georgia School for the Deaf. This is the only off weekend I take. Everybody else is getting their stuff.
Y'all, I've already said it before. Spencer busts his rear end, and he deserves a weekend off. So he's taking a weekend off before we.
And we're paying for it.
Exactly, but before the playoffs, and the championship, and the All-Star game, and all that good stuff happens, time to take some time off. We've all taken time off. This is his turn, and then we're gonna go full to the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Then let me make this clear. When I said we're paying for it, I didn't mean like metaphorically. It was a joke. I meant literally, but it was a joke. Okay, we're not paying for it. Obviously, me and James can handle it for a weekend.
We're going to have to work overtime to make sure the quality doesn't go down.
Yeah, and make sure the clock management goes well.
Look
in
at
there.
the clock.
Yeah, that's the only problem. I will tell you guys, that's the only thing that I dread anytime I'm doing these broadcasts is making sure the clock's right, because I've had several times where it's been off. Like last night, it was off 40 seconds in the fourth quarter, but granted, didn't matter as much. So, anyways, FCA Web, you guys will be there on Friday night, and Saturday afternoon, you guys will be for Tennessee school for the Vikings and. Who's Georgia's school for the mascot? The Wild
Tigers.
The Tigers. Got it. All right, All-Star Selection, everybody. You guys have been waiting a full hour. The 6 of you who are watching, you guys have been waiting.
There might be more. They might just have a phone. See, there's 7, and there might just have a phone sitting.
Yeah, that's true. They might have several people around them. But all right. Here is what we are doing for the All-Star Game this year. Now,
very choppy.
100%.
No, that was live. That was live, everyone.
Yeah, that was live.
That wasn't pre-recorded Extreme Talk.
I hope.
By the way, speaking of Extreme Talk,
goodness.
what about that dope intro last
Oh
week?
my! I was like, wait a minute, what?
Promotion. Shameless self-promotion.
How'd you like
always.
that? You like that?
Okay.
You like that?
Okay, people have been waiting long enough. So, All-Star Game. Full kudos to James and JD in the 2016 game. Kudos to James and Trent in the 2017 All-Star Game. We're gonna.
You helped out in 2017.
I gave you one pick. I gave you one guy, and I just sat there hearing everything. So, here is how it's gonna go. Each coach has nominated 3 players from their team almost every coach. We've had a few coaches that didn't get their nominations in, but almost every coach has nominated 3 players that they guaranteed want to send to the All-Star Game. And then we, after the show here, we're going to be here late, but we're going to be compiling all of the players together, including the nominations, putting those guys on there first, and then giving our personal picks of who we thought, well, the coaches didn't nominate these guys, so we're nominating these ones forward that we think they missed. So we're doing those nominations, and then tomorrow, starting tomorrow until, is it this Saturday or next Saturday?
We have to do this Saturday night.
Yep.
Like, y'all have until like 10 o'clock.
Yep. So starting tomorrow, which is Monday, start tomorrow, and then
first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, James will be posting that on social media.
Before you go to school, vote.
Yep. It's tomorrow, Monday through Saturday this week. You, as the fans, vote for the top positions. You vote for who's going to the All-Star Game out of those nominations and our picks. Yeah,
what's going to happen, and as like Spencer said, we're going to take the nominations, we're going to split them up into position groups. The way we're going to do it is we're going to have quarterbacks and then running back / linebacker, wide receiver / defensive back, offensive line / defensive line, and then kicker / punter. So we will have, 5 position groups? Yeah, five position groups.
You said wide receivers, and what was the other?
Wide receivers and defensive backs.
Gotcha.
Because typically they play the same thing. Defensive ends will fit under offensive, defensive line because a lot of defensive ends play.
Including centers.
Right. So those are the 5 categories. We'll have at least, I think the breakdown, we're going to have 32 guys at the All-Star. We're going to try to have 32 guys at the All-Star Game. So they have
to accept our invitations.
Right. But the breakdown is going to be 4 quarterbacks. That way there's 2 quarterbacks per team. For those of y'all who don't know how the All-Star Weekend works, everyone shows up Thursday at noon. We do a draft to split the teams, and in the next upcoming weeks we'll announce what the team names are going to be and who the alumni captains will be, and then later on we'll know who the coaches are going to be because we kind of have to see how the season plays out. But everyone shows up Thursday at noon. We draft the 2 teams. They have practices. They hang out throughout the 2 days. So that's how that works. So when they draft, they're going to be able to draft 2 quarterbacks. So we need 4 quarterbacks, 10 running backs / linebackers, or 8 running backs / linebackers, 8 wide receiver / defensive backs. Hang on, let me make sure I've got this position number broke down correctly. Okay, so
everybody's going to get playing time. Is that?
Yeah, and everyone's going to. Well, there's only going to be 16 guys per team, so somebody's there's going to have to be rotation. But we know that most guys play both ways, so that helps. That makes it to where we can really only have 16. 4 quarterbacks, there's going to be a total of 8 running backs / linebackers to be split up. There's going to be 8 wide receivers / defensive backs that'll be split up. There will be 10 offensive / defensive linemen, and then there will be 2 kicker punters, 1 for each team. Now, hopefully, like the last 2 teams, we won't have both kickers get drafted to the same team.
No, I think we made that rule. It's that each team has to take a kicker.
And typically, whoever the coaches are, they get their players from their team, and that way, the coaches only have 2 practices to put their system in. So, that or 2 practices and a walkthrough. So that way, they have their players to help facilitate that happening. But yeah, we're gonna have 10 offensive linemen. And that way there's 5 for each side, offensive, defensive linemen. That way if you want to, you can go 2 down linemen. You're going with 3 linemen on offense. Anyway, that's how it breaks down. So a total of 32 guys that are going to get voted in. But on the ballot, there's probably going to end up being about double that. Because we're going to go back in and watching all the games this year, seeing stats and stuff, we're going to probably end up adding a whole lot of guys that maybe didn't get nominated.
And in each position, it's the top 8 on the voting are who will be sent to the All-Star
for running back, defensive back, or for running back, linebacker, and receiver, defensive back. For line, it's going to be the top 10, quarterbacks, top 4, and
I think kickers and punters are basically
punters,
chosen.
top 2. Yeah,
yep.
top 2.
All right, so that's the scenario. So Monday, look for it tomorrow on your social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Look for that Google Forms to go out. And if you vote every single day for the voting.
For every category.
Every category. Well, we're requiring that everyone fill out something on every category on the form, so they have to.
Right.
But if you vote every single day that voting is open, you're thrown into an entry for a free T-shirt.
Free merch.
Free T-shirt.
Holla!
Man Extreme.
Nah, for real though. It's going to be, what do the kids call it? It's going to be lit.
Oh no!
So
no,
we will put out.
Oh my
we will put out the logo for the All-Star Game next week. Mm-hmm. Is when we'll do that reveal, and we'll put that up. Hopefully, we'll have the team names locked in, and then closer to the All-Star Game, we'll have we'll have the 2 team captains on, mm-hmm. and they'll do a coin toss live on air, and that will determine who gets the first pick in the draft. And then the other team gets to choose whether or not they want to be the home team or away team. If they choose to be the away team, they will get to call the coin toss at the All-Star Game. So,
yep, it's the same thing as
good
last
stuff.
year. It's going to be
last
great.
2 years, the first overall pick last year was Hayden Weeks, and then 2 years ago, the first overall pick was, gosh, I don't remember. I really don't.
Who it was?
It might have been Wes
year.
Watson.
You're talking about 2016.
2016. I think it was Wes Watson. He might have been the first overall pick.
We have to look back at the draft. Do you remember who it was last year? Because
Hayden Weeks.
It was Hayden Weeks?
I just said, Hayden Weeks was the first overall pick.
But then, whoever the other person was picked for the team.
Second pick was Jake Wright from Webb.
Yeah, from Webb,
okay, so he got picked up. But yeah, that's how we're doing it this year. The fans, you get to vote who's going to the All-Star Game after our picks, of course, who are our nominations. So instead of just by committee and
y'all's
with
hands.
Coaches, it's up to you guys for sending your favorite players.
And once the voting is done on Saturday, we will send out invitations first thing next week, probably on Monday, mm-hmm. and it's going to be very time sensitive. You're going to have to respond quickly. That way we can lock in your spot. We can get everything sorted for mm-hmm. you to be able to come in terms of paperwork and legality and everything. But you will also, for the guys that decline, we'll continue going down the list of players mm-hmm. and send out invites to. We have to have that number of guys for each position. So we're going to go until we get that filled. We're not going to have 25 or 29 guys like last year. We're going to have 32 there.
Yep. So it's going to be it's going to be great. So make sure to vote this week. And I think that basically wraps it up.
Can I say something before we wrap up?
Of course you can.
Thank God for Coach Vrabel. I got to say that.
I thought someone was going to mention that. If you saw on our Instagram page, all of us were freaking out here in studio prior to the show.
That guy has guts.
Oh, he does.
Guts.
100%. Yeah, and now we just beat the defending Super Bowl champion.
Short-handed.
They forced 4 fourth downs or 3
They
fourth
had
downs.
they had their full lineup, and we were short some defensive players.
And I saw a comment on Instagram just a little while ago. Someone was saying we barely had any players that any of our starters in, which is not true for the Eagles. You guys are just enjoy this one or whatever. I just responded.
We will.
I just responded 26-23, and then the
We
handover.
will enjoy it. We will enjoy it.
We will.
Yeah, it was
See you in February.
So
Yeah,
we're gonna
exactly.
so we're gonna get on social media in a little bit after we get everything figured out, and what we'll do is we'll put out a video and we'll show y'all how to vote and how to do the Google Forms and how to do it because we want y'all to be able to be we want, if we're gonna complain that people are not informative enough, we will be out front. And we will show and we will be informative of how to vote because it's very important to us that you get out there and vote. Y'all have killed it with the Extreme Player of the Week. Y'all have been fantastic with that.
I can't even imagine like how we got all those votes. Like that was not the not the plan.
It's blown up. I'm hoping that everyone comes out and votes for this.
And more importantly, with Google Forms, it's simple. You click a link and then you just click your options and check boxes, click submit, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So it's just
and the links will be on social media everywhere. We'll repost the link every day so that you never lose it.
And that's all.
There you go.
That's what we
That's all
got.
she wrote.
So, look out for it on social media. Monday morning, voting for the All-Star Game begins and then concludes on Saturday. And again, we'll be live for the Webb School hosting Franklin Christian Academy on Friday. Live for Tennessee School for the Deaf hosting Georgia School for the Deaf on Saturday.
Hey, listen, something I want to throw in there. I'm sorry. No, not self-promotion. Two things. We will not have an Extreme Talk the next 2 weeks. With all the All-Star stuff going on, we're going to put that on the back burner. Also, on Saturday, the Tennessee School for the Deaf game, it's at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock our time, because Knoxville's an hour ahead. So don't tune in at 2 o'clock. Tune in at 1 o'clock. And that way you won't miss any of the game. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there that way.
It'll notify them when we go live anyway.
True
If they, as you say, if they get their bell on.
I'm old school. Yeah, get the bell on.
As you say.
You have the bell on, the notification bell.
Yep, get that notification bell on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, Extreme Radio is presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com. Request your appointment online. If you mention you're from 8-Man Extreme, you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Thank you again for tuning into Extreme Radio on behalf of James, Shannon, Isaiah, Austin, and such. Thank you, and we will look forward to seeing you on Friday. I can already see James taking off his headset over there. We will definitely see you on Friday for the Webb School Feet hosting the Franklin Christian Academy Falcons.
See ya!